Hi, I'm Carole Baskin. Welcome back to the Cat Chat Show. Today we have two of our longtime volunteers, Matt and Jen Ruszczyk. Hear about how they got started saving big cats and how they're dedicating their lives to taking care of these magnificent animals. So how long have you guys been here at Big Cat Rescue?
This August it'll be 16 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Man, some of our advocates probably weren't even born when you guys started.
I know.
Yeah, I notice with the interns now, I can't relate to them. I'm more like their parents' level nowadays.
Can you tell everyone how it was that you first came to volunteer out here? How did you hear about it or come here?
Well, we came here to visit on my birthday, and Jen immediately wanted to start volunteering because she used to volunteer at the Lowry Park Zoo, and then when I moved down here, she stopped volunteering, and we came here, and she immediately knew she had to be here.
Well, I wanted to do something more, save the world, save the planet, and that wasn't really, the zoo just didn't give that to me. So I took some time off and thought, okay, what do I want to do? And we came out here to visit. I'm like, this is it. This is what I've been looking for.
So it sounds like you were already volunteering in the animal realm before you guys met, maybe? Or you said when you moved down here, what was going on in your life 16 years ago?
Well, we were doing a long distance relationship. He
Oh
lived up
my
in
gosh.
New York.
Oh,
Yeah, so he lived in New York and I lived down here, so we would go and visit. And one of the things, he knew that I liked animals a lot, and I had brought him to the zoo. I had been at the zoo for 2.5 years before. I worked in primates as well as Asiatic animals, and so then when I took the time off. We came out here to stay a long time ago when we had the cabins. We stayed in the cabin for his birthday, and then
And she started volunteering immediately, and then I didn't. And about 2 months later, I didn't see her at all on the weekends, and so I came out, and that's how I got started.
you were a Big Cat Rescue widower.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Well, and it wasn't really me who kept him here. Then he fell in love with somebody.
Yeah, Glory.
Aw.
Yeah. So
Sweet
he fell in love with
Glory.
Glory, and then so that's why he stuck around.
Yeah. Well, at first it was nice when she was gone because I had college football to watch and all that, but I started missing her.
I often wonder, the people who volunteer out here who do have spouses or families, what is that like for their families, because they are here all the time.
Yeah.
Well, at the holidays, it's interesting. We're asking for boots, for like raincoats, for all of our gifts are very interesting. My family's like, hog ring pliers, what are those? So that is a little different than most couples, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's hard to find a really good pair of hog ring pliers.
Yes, yes. One place we found.
It sounds like because of your involvement with the zoo before, you've always had a strong interest in animals.
Yes, I went to school for zoology and biology with a psych minor. I wanted to work with behavior of animals, and while I was volunteering at the zoo and I was applying for jobs, and but I couldn't pay my bills, so I had to go and get another job. And I was fortunate enough to get into a position where I love my job, make good money, and I still get to do my passion outside with volunteering. So even though my track was to go with animals and I do something in my real life that's totally opposite of animals, I still get both of those. So the volunteering definitely helps feed that passion for me.
And are you known as the cat lady or the tiger lady in your job, or do they know what you do?
Kind of. Oh, yes. Everybody knows what I do. Yes. They all do. And I am the cat lady. And it's always a question of, my cat's ear is doing this. I'm not a vet. But yes, the animal lady, because I love animals of all species. I just love them all. So.
And what about you? Did you have an animal background before you met
Not at
Jen?
all. I always liked animals, but I never worked with them, and up until I met Jen, I was a young single guy. I was having fun and didn't really think of volunteering with animals.
Were you in the same industry when you were in New York as you are now?
No, I used to own a Subway franchise up in New York.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, how interesting.
Yep. And
Wow.
I did that for 7 years, and when I met her, one of us had to move, and I was kind of sick of it, so I moved down here.
Boy, I bet you're glad you're here this year.
Yeah.
Oh, cold
Snow.
in there.
I don't miss snow, but I also hate nine months of summer we have. It's horrible, but
Can you Tell the people that are watching a little bit about the type of work that you do now.
I work
Are
for
you
a-
allowed to talk about it?
I work for a company that builds flight simulators for the U.S. military. So
That was always one of the coolest things that we could auction off at the Fur Ball was
Yeah.
the opportunity to fly one of those.
yeah, it's a neat business. It's interesting.
A lot of ever-changing technology, I would
Yeah,
think.
it's constant.
And I would imagine you're very much into the technology of, I think it's phone systems.
I sell networking equipment, so anything from phone systems all the way up to the stuff that makes all of your computers work, the switching, the routing, the storage, all of that. Yeah, I don't know how to make any of it work or run, but I
Because
do
we
know how
would
to sell
sure
it.
put you to use here.
Yeah, no, that's him. He knows how to make it work. I just sell it. That's my background, sales.
None of the equipment here ever wants to talk to any of their part of it. It's such a nightmare. Oh, gosh. Do you guys have pets at home?
Oh, we have lots of pets.
No, we actually have 6 cats right now.
Are you
and one
foster
dog.
failures?
We are horrible foster failures. They've all been rescues, fosters, you name it, how they came. And then one dog right now.
Yeah, the last cat we got, one of the old volunteers, Shiloh, found it when she was coming from North Carolina to Florida.
Oh, I heard
On the
about
side
that
of the
cat. I
road.
saw pictures. That is a beautiful
Beautiful
cat.
Siamese cat, but somebody just dumped it in the middle of nowhere. And she saw something. She stopped, thought it was a dead dog. And when she got there, came running over to her. It hadn't been out there long, I don't think, because his fur was good, but it was skin and bones and had a puncture wound in its back end.
And lots of worms.
Yeah, I wish I liked fishing because that cat has a lot of worms.
So is this cat acclimated now to your group? Because this has been how many months now?
Been about 4 months, maybe.
3 or 4 months now. And yeah, he started out, his name was Lovey Dovey, and then it went to Mr. Awesome, and now he's Monster. Because he's a kitten, and the rest of our cats are older. So they're all afraid of him, but now they're starting to tolerate him. So.
And that Siamese in his background has just got to
Oh yeah.
amplify it 10 times over.
Oh yeah. He's like the one who, if there's something on your table, he's gonna flick it off. He's just
Yeah, he's got a lot of energy. You walk down the hall and he just runs between your legs full speed.
all personality. We're not used to kittens. We've always been rescues, so you never get rescue. Well, you rarely get little kitten rescues. You always get the older ones. So we are so not used to a kitten.
It's a good thing you have all this training in operant conditioning.
True.
Have you utilized any of that in your...
Yeah, we have. We've actually, well, when we first started doing operant conditioning out here, I said, well, Matt, we need to figure out this clicker training thing. So we had 2 dogs at the time, and I said, okay, we bought a book, bought clickers, and said, okay, we're going to teach them how to give me 5, So they learned very quickly how to give me 5. Well, then after a while, whenever they want anything, they would hit you.
Oh, no.
So we realized, okay, you have to watch what you teach them for the first time. You really have to watch that. But no, with our cats at home, they all have stations. We do a lot of station training, so they all have their bowls they go to, and it's amazing. In the morning, they all run to their bowls and just sit there. Liz, our vet, came over one day, and she's like, wow, this is crazy. They're all like sitting, waiting in lockout, kind of.
Our enrichment and our operant programs go back so far that to me they've just always been there, but you were probably a big part of actually starting those.
Mm-hmm. So for enrichment, I had done some at the zoo, but at that time they were only doing it mostly with primates. And so, but there was a lot of research you could do and a lot of reading you could do with enrichment. So we started an enrichment program out here, and we did a lot of research on what the animals do in the wild and how to simulate those behaviors here. There's tons and tons of books in our center. It was funny, I looked at the other day, I saw all of our old stuff from like 1998,
The shape of enrichment.
We would do it by species. We'd have meetings on servals, we'd have meeting on, ocelots, and just do all the research, come together and come up with plans. And so that's how it kind of started. We did a lot of, let's try this, let's try that, and it just kind of stuck and amplified from there. So
I so wish that we had captured that process back then. We didn't videotape nearly as much back then.
I don't think we had hardly any videotapes to do.
Well, yeah, there probably wasn't equipment to do it. There wasn't any way to share it back then before
Exactly.
YouTube. Wow.
I
So
remember
much
your first cat video. What did we call those?
awful.
I remember those, and we called them something else. But I remember that and thinking, wow, this is kind of interesting. This is a little different. Now it's like, you didn't video it? You know, we were always ahead of the time on that stuff.
Katera, I think, was the very first video.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you ever stay for enrichment or operant or any of those
No,
programs?
I usually just hang out with my cats. That's my enrichment. Like with Mac, I just sit with him, eat purrs, and I don't, I'll give him some spices or something like that. But it's
And
just
I do see you a lot of times around the sanctuary just sitting with a cat. Like right before this, I saw you teaching Alex how to roll over.
he's done that. He's trained me. Like he makes me follow him, and then when he gets to where his grass is, he always falls on his back and rolls around.
He's so funny.
But no, I've never done the clicker training. I just prefer spending quality time with the cats and just enjoying their presence.
And I think that's what makes this so unique out here, because with 100 volunteers, you've got 100 different ways of entertaining the cats.
Yeah.
So they've always got something different to observe in you guys. You guys are some of the best enrichment out here. I should say, because of the fact that you're wearing green shirts, to the people who are watching the show and may not be familiar with this means that you guys are putting in a minimum of 8 hours a week, every single week out of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like giving up an entire day. And I think in your case, maybe it's a couple of days because you come out here for the better part of a couple of days. Or you come out for feeding, or you come out for the special events and all of those kinds of things. So when you're not here, how does that impact the rest of your life as far as like, how do you have a life outside of here? Or do you?
It was tough. Like when we first started, we were here every Saturday and Sunday for years. And at the time I was playing rugby, so I'd come here in the morning, clean, go to Daytona or Sarasota, Naples, or local game to play, and then come back and feed. And I missed out on a lot of the parties after the games, which I thought that this was more important at the time. But we don't go out Friday nights because we don't have to be here all day Saturday, and Saturdays we're usually pretty exhausted. So we stay close to home, neighborhood areas, but we don't go out like we used to. Of course, we're getting old too.
Well, that's true. But I think that might be one of the things that's so hard to have volunteers as long as Matt and I have been volunteering, because you do sacrifice a lot of stuff. You do sacrifice parties, and life happens around you, and you sometimes just have to say, no, I'm sorry, I can't do that, and make this a priority. So, as an intern, this is your world. But as a volunteer, there's a lot of world around you, and you just have to have a huge amount of passion, a huge priority for this place. But we're fortunate being a couple that, I'm still with him. And so it's not like I'm sacrificing my husband or anything. He's sacrificing his wife being out doing something else. We're doing it together. So I do think that has helped with the longevity of us being volunteers for so long.
I think another thing that's probably really helped is that you guys have chosen not to have children, because most people who come on as volunteers, as soon as they get to that childbearing age, which is about when you guys started, then all of a sudden they're having to go to soccer and ballet, and their entire lives are revolving around the little ones.
We had an actual sit-down conversation and said, do we want to have kids, or do we want to do the animal rescue thing? Because we figured that we could do both, but we couldn't do both to the level that we wanted to, and do it right. So we did decide that as a couple that we wanted to go and do animal rescue, and that was going to be our priority.
Wow, that's quite a commitment. I mean, most people make that decision of, do we want to have children or do we want to have a life?
Yeah.
But yours was, do we want to sacrifice that life to take care of these other animals out there? That's really amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to make me cry. Matt, when you come in for your day of work here, what does that look like from the time that you arrive till the time that you leave? Kind of give me a walkthrough of what you do.
Well, now that we're feeding in the mornings, when I get here, there's feeding, and then cleaning for about 3 or 4 hours. Take a lunch break, and then usually doing work around the cages or whatever needs to be done. And helping with the tours and that kind of stuff.
So you show up about what time in the morning?
I get here around 8:30.
And you get out here about when?
4:30, 5 o'clock.
Wow. And in the winter, that's dark.
Yeah.
We're just now starting to get some nice light.
Well, that's what I like about feeding in the morning is that, because before we used to feed it in the evening as late as we could. So in the summer, you're talking getting here at 8:30, leaving at 7:30. So now it's a little bit of a shorter day, which is nice.
Are you, because you're probably feeding, because you're a rancher, you're probably feeding big cats.
Yeah.
Are you having to deal with the buzzard issue as far as like protecting the cats while they eat?
I did the feeding tour today, and there was a whole swarm over by Bengali. There was no food there, but
I made sure he got at least 1 pork and 3 chickens and half of his mush before I left him. But yeah, you feel like, oh, it's ominous.
Keisha this morning was really earning her keep trying to keep them out of her cage until she finally was just like, oh, enough. I can't run anymore. And I really would have thought that there'd be like buzzard for breakfast, buzzard for lunch, buzzard for dinner in there with her in that cage. I haven't seen her catch one yet.
Nope, they're crafty.
I've been told they're very smart.
They are.
Remember once there was a bunch of ibises in Joseph's cage, and he killed a ton of them. It was like Ibis Gettysburg.
Oh,
There's
no.
Ibises everywhere.
Oh. He has no appreciation for the Endangered Species Act. Oh, dear. So what does your day look like when you come in? And do you guys ride in together, or do you come in separate?
No, we dive separate.
Yeah, we drive separate because I get here. He does the feeding tour, which starts a little bit later, so he can come in a little bit later than me, and he can walk the dog and do some things at home that I'm running out of there. So I split up my days. I do Saturdays and Sundays. He typically doesn't come in on Sundays, so he does a longer day on Saturday. On Sunday when I come in, or Saturday and Sunday when I come in, it's around 8 o'clock, and I feed, clean, do a tour if I need to. I also do the keeper tour, so sometimes I'll be doing keeper tour instead of cleaning, and then I also help out on a project, and then I get out of here as soon as I can, like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. I'm heading home so I can get some other stuff done because I do both days. And then Mondays I come in before work and I give out meds to the animals. So I break up my days quite a bit.
Well, it's a lot of different things. And the meds are something you have to have been here for a very long time and have like all of the training possible, I think, before you can even take the meds class.
Yeah. All the training possible, and also you just want to make sure it's consistent because you want to make sure that that you're seeing the animals, that the whole group of med people. It's very interesting when we have a conversation. It's like, who ate what med and what ground meat and what, our conversations are very weird, but we're all on the same page with what's going on with the animals, and we all are talking about, okay, did he act a little bit different this time? What did you do to get them to give the med today? And so the group is a little bit smaller that does that so that we can all know what's going on with the animals because they're changing very quickly at that point when they need meds.
And you hit it right on the head when you said it's changing. It's not like you could go out and figure out what everybody likes as their favorite, and then that's just forevermore. That's what you're going to do. It's like every week it's something different, maybe every day.
Every day. Like, you'll talk to the person who gives out meds in the morning. Oh, I have no problem giving it to them on a stick. Oh, well, I have to do it this way. Now, they're probably training us to get their favorite things, too. But
look, I can make them do this.
Yeah. Becky does it one way, I do it another way, but it changes by hours sometimes.
Wow. And with our cats all being so old, and so many of them on pain medications and arthritis medications and everything, that's a lot of cats to medicate. How long does that actually take? Is it just one person doing the meds each day?
One person, yeah. Well, one person in the morning and one person at night. So AM and PM meds are separate. And that's all they do. When we're doing meds, we want to make sure they don't have other distractions. They're not trying to figure out, feeding or anything like that. So they just have to do meds. It depends. Sometimes when we have a lot of cats on meds, it can take about a half hour to put everything in the meat and then go out. Then it can take anywhere from 20 minutes to 45 minutes, depending if you have a cat that's being fussy. If you have a cat that you have to keep going back and trying something new. I mean, like Bengali right now, you take out everything in the cooler, basically, to try to see what he wants. It can take, it's time consuming, but it's worth it.
I think it's got to be even that much harder for some of the cages that are now larger than what we used to have, because the cat can, like, when you mentioned Bengali, he can get up on that platform in the middle of that cage and he's just like, ah,
Yeah.
I'm not coming down.
Yep, you have to go Bengali, Bengali, come on, come on. You know, let him see it, and then, okay, he's not going to come over yet. And then go to somebody else and come back. And then he's finally like, oh, okay. You know, so, yeah, with the cages being larger, we now have really long med sticks. We have all sorts of tricks to get them to come over.
You wore long sleeves. I'm sorry to see that, because you had some really great tattoos that I was going to ask if you would show. There were, well, you can just tell us about them. Some of the cats that really had made an impact on you, you actually wear on your body now.
Yeah, so my favorite cats, when they passed away, I always wanted a tattoo. I didn't know what of. Thank God I didn't get when I was younger. It'd probably be something really stupid. But I didn't realize the level of photorealism was available in tattoos. And I was doing my research, and everyone kept mentioning this guy, Tom Renshaw, out of Michigan. So I went up there and had him do two, Zoe the Snow Leopard and Glory. And then I decided to get a couple more. I got Scratch and China Doll.
Wow.
So.
And they really are photorealistic.
Yeah.
Maybe you could send me a photo and I'll stick it in over
Yeah,
the top
I
of
get
this.
photos.
Because
They
I'd
look
never
better in
seen
the photos because they were new when those were taken.
I'd never seen tattoos done that way.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing.
It's like art.
Yeah.
Which I guess most people's tattoos feel like it's art, but just green ink by itself just doesn't do a whole lot for me. You mentioned earlier that you love all kinds of animals, and I know that you're involved in something called Animal Warriors. Can you tell people what that is and what you guys do?
Yes, Animal Warriors, Matt and I are one of the founders of that organization, and we realized that all this time that we've been at Big Cat Rescue, we've learned a lot what not to do and what to do. And the general public doesn't know how to build a tiger enclosure or to build a primate enclosure. So we have a group of people that go out to other sanctuaries that need a little help, or, you know, all sanctuaries need help, but at different levels. Some of them are very huge and have very big organizations. Some of them are smaller and need a lot of work. And so we go and we help them with any projects that they need to do. We know how to run a group. We know how to teach volunteers to be safe around animals. And we also know how to build enclosures. So we bring a lot of added benefit to these facilities. We also bring any kind of volunteers, anybody, our neighbors, or, you know, and teach them about sanctuaries, teach them about animal rescues, and then also what it takes to have these facilities. So most people don't realize, you know, first of all, they don't realize that you can have tigers and that there is a problem with tigers in your backyard. But secondly, they just don't realize, they all think that it's just that we go and we play with kitties when we go out to volunteer. They don't realize how much work it is to run a sanctuary.
Also, with the Animal Warriors, they don't have to be part of a volunteer program. You know, like at Big Cat Rescue, there's a whole training program. These can be just a one-off thing where they show up one time and help out, but they don't have to go through a whole training program.
You're almost having to train them every time you do it, though. If it's new people, like, you know, okay, here's how you build a cage, or here's how you...
Yeah, but it's not a long, you know, drawn-out commitment. They don't have to make a time commitment to do Animal Warriors. They can show up anytime, you know, when we do a trip.
And like here, we're in such close proximity with the animals, we have to have a very consistent program and a lot of time commitment, because we are in closer proximity than with Animal Warriors. Everybody's locked away and everything. So yeah, we're training them to how to put on a hog ring, but not how to keep yourself safe from a tiger. How to feed a tiger. We don't do that kind of stuff. We help them with projects.
One of the things I hear that sanctuaries have the toughest time with is fundraising. Do you guys ever go in and do any of that kind of training or advising?
Yes, we last year we did 3 fundraisers for 3 different organizations, and yeah, most sanctuaries I've found, which actually you are one of the exceptions, and you are one of the people that I always think about, is that a lot of people start a sanctuary because they love animals. They absolutely love animals, which
and that's not me.
No, which, Carol, you do love animals a lot, but they have no business sense at all. They have no idea how to run a business at all. And I remember back a long, long time ago when I remember the day that you were like, all of a sudden you start being a businesswoman. and you started, I need to get my mission out. I need to start thinking of this as a business. I can clearly see the day. It was in October. And
Do you remember what year?
Gosh.
No, you're asking the wrong person.
Yeah, I don't know. Years are really bad, but I remember specifically it was in October, and that's when we started doing the haunted trail and things like that, right around then. And most of these places don't think that way. So we've done a lot of different fundraisers here at Big Cat Rescue and learned a lot again. And so we're able to kind of host some fundraisers for them, all different types of themes and stuff, but it's fun. It's really fun.
Yeah, for a lot of them, it's the only fundraising they have. So it's nice to be able to get a couple $1,000s in an afternoon to help a small dog rescue or Jungle Friends Primate Sanctuary.
It can make a huge difference.
Yeah.
The smaller the organization.
Oh yeah, $4,000 to a dog rescue is amazing. It's like they can do so much with it.
Do these rescue groups or sanctuaries find you, or do you find them?
In the beginning, I found them, and then now everybody's begging for us. Words out, words out about us.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, it was, if I was doing a lot of research, because I work, and it's a little bit selfish, but I work with tigers all day long, so I'm like, tiger, I want to go see a cow. So I tried to look into different places that were a little different than what I do day to day, and there's a lot out there.
There's a place in Odessa that does a wide array of rehab and release, I believe, of like raccoons and foxes and those kinds of animals. I think it's called Wildlife Haven. Have you guys been there?
I haven't been to
No.
Wildlife Haven.
No place in Odessa?
Uh-uh.
People have been asking me about that place lately, and I thought we had a group go there,
Yeah.
but I didn't go, so I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, I don't know that one. We've been to some horse ones around here, but not that one.
Another one that came up on my radar recently, I know the Suncoast Seabird Sanctuary had gone under, but then I thought they had. And then somebody came to me and said they were over on Reddington Beach, and there was a place like 2 hotels, and right in between is just Seabird Sanctuary. It doesn't say Suncoast Seabird Sanctuary. Is that the same place, or have you guys been there?
So we've been to the Sarasota, Seabird Sanctuary. Save Our Seabirds. So Save Our Seabirds in Sarasota, SOS. And they're getting a lot of the birds from Suncoast. And when people are bringing birds from there, they're referring them over to Save Our Seabirds. That's a cute little place. It's right by Moat Marine. They actually have the same parking lot. But it's one that was very much struggling. And a gentleman took over that's a business guy. He knows nothing about birds. And so now he's bringing that to a different level. And so that's where I think a lot of those birds are going. But I don't know about that other one in Reddington.
Yeah, I get so many bird calls, and I don't know where to send them. So
Save Our Seabirds. Jeff Kramer has the information.
okay, I'll be sure and
He knows them.
find out from him. Do you have a particular favorite story about working with animals?
You can go first.
Because she's going to use the time to think of hers.
Yeah.
Good
Mine's
move, Jen.
Mine's kind of embarrassing, but one time where the memorial garden is now is a pile of old wood. And,
Oh, I remember
There's
that. That
big-
was like a big pile
Yeah, it was
of
big.
wood.
just like a dump area, and we were cleaning it up one time, and I'm not afraid of snakes, but I don't like snakes. So every time I was picking up a piece of plywood, I was like looking, make sure there wasn't a snake under there. And I finally I didn't find anything underneath any of the wood. And the last thing there was a giant, like one of those translucent plastic drop cloths, and in the middle of it was a half a cinder block. And I picked that up, and a fountain of rats exploded.
Oh no!
Yeah, they said I screamed like a little girl.
It ran away.
But they were everywhere. They went up in all the trees.
Oh gosh! Oh.
I didn't run away.
Oh gosh, I have a lot of them, but I think Maya was one of my favorite stories. So Maya, she was a lioness that had come to us, and two lioness mothers had fought over her, and when she was a cub, and she got injured, and she had brain damage. And when she came here, she had two eyes, but one of them was dead, so we removed one of her eyes. But she was on daily medication for seizures and things like that. We only had a couple volunteers that really worked very closely with her because, again, she needed a very consistent program. And so I was one of those. And Maya, she taught me a lot about myself. Because even though she had such a hard time and she struggled so much, she just enjoyed life. And if you gave her, and this was when we first started the enrichment program, if you gave her a toilet paper tube, she would hold it in her mouth like a big old cigar, and she'd walk around like a big cigar. And she also had we had her in a smaller enclosure in the beginning because she didn't know depth perception. So she'd go running over to you and bonk into the side. We had to go, whoa, and teach her how to do that. Well, she would try to stalk you, and she's this like medium-sized lion, and she would get in the middle of the enclosure and just stop. And like, you can't see me, and I'm like, you're the only thing sitting right there. You're this big. And so then you start walking, and she would come, and she was too big for her body, I guess. I don't know. But she would run, and she was like a rocking horse that would go like this, and boom, 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 boom. So Maya was probably one of my favorite things to come out here and see and spend time with her.
Oh, that was such a huge loss when she died from that massive seizure.
Yeah, that was horrible.
You guys have seen a lot of that over 16 years.
Mm-hmm.
So many of the cats have passed since back then. 16 years ago, I'm guessing we had somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 to 140 maybe big cats.
Yeah, I think we were closer to 40, 50.
Yeah.
100.
I think our highest census was like 155, but it included all the domestic cats, which back then used to run around loose.
Yeah.
They became house cats later on or got shipped home with volunteers.
We had Xena.
I think everybody's left here with a cat at some point in their career. You guys also witnessed a huge evolution here because 16 years ago we were still allowing public contact with the cats back then. And it was, I think in 2003 maybe that we stopped the public from handling the cats, and I think maybe 4 when we stopped the volunteers from handling the cats. And you served on the volunteer committee as well. And I remember there were so many discussions about this back then. People said, oh, if you don't let people touch these cats, you're never going to survive. This place is going to go under. And then it was the same thing with the volunteers. If you don't let the volunteers touch the cats, they're all going to run away and they're not going to stay. You guys obviously stayed. So can you remember back to what that was like for you? One day you're allowed to touch the cats. The next day, all those great cats that you had these great relationships with, now you're not allowed to touch. But what it was that made you stay?
Well, it wasn't about us, it was about the cats. I mean, touching was for us, not for the cats. So it wasn't that big of a deal, I don't think.
I love that answer because people always say, don't they miss being petted? And it's like, no, we miss petting them.
Right, exactly.
But like with Mac, I sit with him, he just purrs and leans up against the cage. He doesn't need me to touch him. So.
For me, we would do a tour and we're talking, okay, these make bad pets, they're terrible, they bite, they scratch and everything, and then, okay, let's go in and pet one now. It was just, you're like, how do I justify this? And after you did a few of those, you're like, how do I justify this? Because I really believe in the beginning of the tour. So for me, it was a relief when we stopped interacting with animals. And then we started doing the enrichment and the operant conditioning and bringing that into it, which is more, like Matt said, more for the animals than for us. So, I mean, it's awesome for us too, but it's way better for them and to let them live a natural life. I like that way more than the instant gratification of being able to pet a tiger at one point.
I think that can be so helpful to people who are running sanctuaries because a big part of our audience are people running sanctuaries that want to know, how do you guys do all this stuff? So they watch these shows. And for them to see that here's some long-term people, you guys have been so amazingly committed, and you did it for the right reasons. So they can make those decisions at other places and do what's right for the animals, and they're going to keep the best of their volunteer pool when they do.
Yeah, I'm sure we lost people when that changed, but, the people that are for the right reasons stayed.
And that's who you really want.
Yeah.
I also remember when AZA came in and they said, how can you can't have a program that's run by volunteers. It's not possible. It's not possible. And we were like, no, we have a lot of longtime volunteers. And I really believe it's because we're doing it for the right reasons. We're not doing it for a paycheck. I mean, I understand that zoo people are doing it for their reasons as well, but at the end of the day, not one of us is getting a paycheck other than to, have a chuff from a tiger or, whatever. So it makes us, I think, stay longer because we're doing it for our heart and not to pay a bill.
And I think it makes you guys an even better employee than a paid employee, because if a paid employee, if your job is dependent on you buying into whatever the social, I don't know what the word is, the culture at the zoo, and there's things at that zoo that you don't like the animals being locked up at night, or you don't like that they don't get fed every day, or you don't like certain things, but you depend on your livelihood to put up with that, then I think it really causes people who might otherwise speak out to try and turn a blind eye to it, because they can't justify that in their head. Whereas people like you, if you don't like what's going on here, you can quit. You can just say, hey, I'll just go over and help somebody else. I don't have to be here.
Right. That's totally true.
Really self-selects for the best people here.
Mm-hmm. Well, the best thing I think, since I've been here, is the growth of the intern program. I mean, when it first started, they were here for 3 months, and then most of them never came back. And I think Callum was the first intern that wouldn't leave.
We're like, well, what do we do with him?
He did like 4 consecutive interns,
again.
and that's become more popular. I mean, interns doing 3 or 4 internships, and they're so much more valuable, because every time you get a new intern, it takes time to train them and try to to get them with the program and knowing what to do. And as they come back for their 3rd, 4th internships, they take on more responsibilities and get more things they get to do. But they're fantastic, and it's I can't imagine what it was like without them.
It's
and they're
so
consistent. They're always here.
Yeah. It's so good to hear that, because I sometimes hear whisperings and grumbles that there's this rift. And, we've always had this issue of the classes. The red shirts don't like the yellow shirts, and the yellow shirts don't like the green shirts.
East Coast, West Coast.
I guess it's ubiquitous everywhere. But there's always been this concern that there is jealousy between the volunteers and the interns, because the interns are perceived as getting to do so much more. But it's like, the reason is they're here all the time, and we just grab whoever's closest most of the time. So it's good to hear that they're appreciated by the upper level volunteers.
Well, and the longer they stay, like Matt said, they're getting to do more, but also they're training the other interns now too. Because it can be frustrating as a volunteer that you're spending your whole time here training these people that are going to leave, and then you train the next people and they leave, and all you're doing is coming and training people to leave. So now they're helping to train those people so that we can actually do some fun stuff. We don't have to just follow around and watch somebody else do something. So for a little while, I can see why there would be some frustration with that, but now that we have longevity, it's getting better.
And now we're up to level 5. I don't know what we're going to do for a level 6 now.
I know.
Gosh. You do a lot of training still, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I still, it's like I said, it's much better because it's people that I'm like, okay, you're still going to be here for another 3 months, okay? But yeah, I train a lot of the interns and the volunteers. As you go through the program, you learn to do more, you can do more, you have to teach that to the next group, because Matt and I aren't going to be able to be here forever and ever and ever, so we do need to teach the next group what's going on and how to do it right. You can teach anybody to do things just haphazardly, but that's not how we do things here.
I know so many times I see these young people, and the interns tend to be mostly younger, and I just think, gosh, I wish I had that flexibility that I could crawl in there, holding a bucket in one hand, on my other 3 hands into a den that's only 18 inches high, or be able to haul the amount of dirt that they can haul.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Them and their young backs.
And knees.
You blew yours out in rugby.
Yeah.
If you had something that you wanted to share with other people who are thinking, wow, I really want to make a difference with my life, what would that be?
You first.
I might as well. I don't know. Like I said, before I started here, I never thought I'd work with big cats. I didn't have any experience, no training in it. And it's become a huge part of my life. And there's so many volunteer opportunities working with, like I said, with the animal warriors, we do birds, farm animals, horses, primates. And it's very rewarding.
Do you think you've missed anything by giving up those 2 days a week or 3 days a week if you're doing
We
other?
miss a lot of social life. I mean, we don't see our friends as much as we would, but then again, now they're all having kids, and we wouldn't see them anyway.
Well, that's true. We don't want to see. I think that if I was to tell anybody, do your passion now. Do it now. Don't wait. I heard about this place a year before I came. Gosh, I wish I would have had that extra year to do it. Don't just plan on it, think about it, read about it. Just do it. Because every minute that you're not doing it, you're missing a tiger chuffing, or you're missing something cool, or, these guys are getting older. So every time I leave them, I say, I love you, because you don't know if they're going to be there the next day. Young ones and new ones. So, there's so many, these interns don't know half the amazing animals that we've had come through here. So it's just do it, and do it now. Don't wait.
That's great advice. And you're right. I mean, every day is so different.
Jen was saying about, going out and doing the volunteering, these interns, I think that's one of the things that become so attached to the place. That, you're always seeing on Facebook the former interns saying, I wish they wish they could come back here.
I do see that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And they're coming from all around the world,
Yeah.
so for some of them, that's really difficult.
For us living down the street, I can't imagine driving past here and not going, what's going on down there? I mean, I just can't imagine that. I can't.
Well, you guys were wonderful. Thank you so much.
Oh,
Our
thank you.
pleasure.